I'm not going to stop talking about Charlie Kirk's death. In fact, instead of trying to make me shut up, you should do something else. I think your time would be better spent trying to stop the sun from rising. You'd have more success if you spent your time trying to stop the sun from rising than trying to get me to shut up about who killed Charlie Kirk. I want war with all of you. Okay? All of you. And there's a reason. I'm going to get to that reason in a little bit, but I want more with all of you. So write your articles, issue your statements, email the White House, reach out for comment, okay? Say whatever it is you want to say about me. I want more with all of you.
Whatever you might think about Candace Owens, I have to confess the statement of, I want war with all of you, I found appealing. Oh, that resonated with me. That sounds like something I would say, to be honest with you.
Are you kidding me? I invented war with all of you. So
you did.
I love it.
No, but in all seriousness, that doesn't mean I'm co-signing onto everything that Candace Owens is saying in this video or what she believes. What I am gonna do though is defend the fact that Candace Owens is clearly hurting. I mean, I think it's the most obvious thing in the world. She's in pain over the fact that her close friend was assassinated in a vicious and gruesome way. We all saw it. And she is skeptical of the official investigation and narrative around this. Now, I don't know what to make of the investigation other than the fact that I too feel that there are some weird things going on, some inconsistencies. And to be quite frank, I don't really trust Kash Patel, right? Like I just don't, he just seems a bit incompetent to me. And so that's where my starting point is. Now, Candace Owens took a week off recently. She came back, and on her first show back, she kind of lists some of the things that she finds questionable. So she's drawing attention to footage that she found strange from the day that Charlie Kirk was shot and killed. So let's start with Charlie's chief of staff, who is a 24-year-old by the name of Mike McCoy. And he happens to be the son of Pastor Rob McCoy, who seems pretty offended that Candace Owens is asking questions about what really happened that day, who really killed Charlie Kirk. And Tyler Robinson, being the suspect here, she's not convinced by that. Were there other people involved? Like, she's asking questions. So for those who don't know anything about Rob McCoy, I certainly didn't. It turns out that Rob McCoy co-chairs the faith division of Kirk's Turning Point USA. And he said that Kirk was a friend to Candace and never spoke poorly of her, though he disagreed with her. He urged Owens to behave like Kirk, who he claims wouldn't have spread similar theories if, God forbid, this tragedy had been hers. And he also says, quote, I only wish at this tragic time of mourning, she would be a friend to Charlie, that he was to her. He would never have treated Candace or her family in such a way had, God forbid, this tragedy been hers. Okay. The other thing that I'll just note is Candace Owens is on the record essentially saying the only person who can stop me from asking these questions and engaging in this, independent investigation is Charlie Kirk's wife. If she hits me up and tells me, I want you to stop, I will respect that. She's on the record saying that. So I just kind of want to make that clear. Now, Pastor McCoy's son, Mikey, is seen on a phone, like talking to someone on the phone immediately as Charlie Kirk gets shot. And that's what Candace Owens is going to weigh in on here. She finds this strange. Everyone pay close attention because I'm curious what your thoughts are and whether you find this strange. Take a look.
Mikey's the chief of staff. And I'm watching, the minute Charlie was shot, he called me, says, Dad, Charlie's been shot in the neck. Please call every pastor and pray. I said, okay, son. He has wits about him. He was just directing. He had blood all over him.
He says Mikey had blood all over him, except Mikey did not have blood anywhere near him because Mikey was behind the tent when Charlie got shot. And Mikey, in less than a second, does something that I find to be quite strange. He puts his phone to his ear and he begins a conversation. So we decided to slow this clip down And we're gonna watch this clip slow down so you can see that it is exactly 834 milliseconds from the time that you hear the shot. That is how long it takes. So when this clip was brought, there we go, we're tracking that.
Don't know what to make of it. I mean, I know what I would do if I heard a gunshot. I would run for my life. He seems pretty calm, casual, and he's on the phone. The question is, who is he talking to? Aside from that, I don't know what to make of this video. What are your thoughts, Jake?
Super strange. So look, I know the right wing can be conspiratorial. So like, and I'm not a guy who's gonna be like, oh, something happened, so the conspiracy must be true, right? No, but at the same time, we're gonna look at everything with an open mind. So do I know why he did that? Of course not. But do we have eyes? We have eyes. We saw what happened there. That was strange. Why is it strange? When someone you know is shot, there is usually one reaction, shock. And then that will split into two different reactions. One is run, the other is help, right? His reaction is very calm, get on the phone and walk away calmly as everyone else is screaming and running. Maybe he's the calmest man in America. Like, I don't know, you'd have to ask him, right? But was that a little different than what you would expect? Well, obviously it was. Maybe there's a good explanation for it, but it was definitely strange. And then there's the guys who were doing all the baseball signals. What were they about? Anna, when I first saw the clip of them doing all the signs right before Charlie gets shot, I was like, I thought it was gonna be something like this, and oh, the guy was playing with his ear and you're interpreting it as a baseball sign or some sort of signal. And maybe there's a good reason why they're doing signals, but they were definitely doing signals right around Charlie before he was shot. So I don't have an answer for that. I mean, in the old days, we believed our government, and you would hope that the government would explain, oh, no, this is the communication system his security team had, et cetera, et cetera. But now we don't even trust the government.
Yeah, and remember, when they had first detained Tyler Robinson, the claim was that Tyler Robinson had turned himself in and confessed, but that's actually not true. The more recent reporting indicates that he is unwilling to cooperate. He's not answering any questions. He didn't plead guilty. So that's a little strange. But to your point about the hand motions, so the hand gestures were being done by Charlie Kirk's security detail. There could definitely be a reasonable explanation for that, right? Maybe the other security person was far away and that's how they communicate. I have no idea. But I don't think there's anything wrong with answering these questions. I do think there's something wrong if you try to pin a murder onto someone without any evidence whatsoever. But I haven't seen her do that. I haven't seen Candace do that. Now, some might argue there's innuendo, she's implying things, and I can see that argument. But honestly, I think that she is, with this particular case, trying to be as careful as she can. She doesn't believe the official narrative. But for anyone who's saying that she's like blaming a foreign country or blaming a specific person, I haven't seen her definitively blame anyone. In fact, she wants to know what actually happened, which is why she's continuing looking into this. And then there's the footage of a Turning Point USA staffer. I think this is the strangest thing, personally. There's video of a Turning Point USA staffer immediately snatching surveillance footage from the camera directly behind Charlie after he gets shot. So let's take a look at that.
The camera guy, the one who takes down the camera, seeing him lingering alongside Charlie at the event flagged me as weird immediately. Okay? That's why I reached out when people saw him taking down the camera. I said, what is this? Why are you here? Literally, why are you standing next to Charlie? I've never at any college event ever in 6 years had that man standing next to me at an event, okay? And you know what, when I called him, things got pretty weird. He acknowledged that a lot of new stuff was happening on that day. And I inquired to him immediately about the subtle changes that I recognized. And the thing that struck me as wrong was that he lied to me. I don't know why he was lying to me, but a lot of the things that he said didn't make sense. And I'm going to speak more thoroughly about what it was that he said, because obviously I recorded the phone call and I asked him again, like, what's the reason? What's the reason for taking down the cameras quickly? Why hasn't the footage been released? Let me see it. And he told me that he had spoken only to Erica and the feds that he had regarding the footage. That is, he specifically told me that, as I said earlier, that he had secured that footage because he wanted to prevent Erica, as I told you, from having to relive that moment. And then it made even less sense to me and appeared to me as a lie once I saw the footage on FaceTime, when I realized that there was no blood on Charlie. So it was the least traumatizing footage of all. Why be so secretive about it?
So a couple things to note here. She makes mention of the fact that she recorded the phone conversation with this gentleman. And I have no doubt that eventually she'll probably release audio of that. And she has also been releasing text exchanges that she had with Charlie Kirk prior to him being shot and killed, which we're gonna get to in just a minute. But yeah, the immediate need to take that surveillance footage. Why was that the priority? What happened with that footage? I don't think there's anything wrong asking those questions. And more importantly, Cenk, we heard a lot about Tyler Robinson's motive, right? The motive was, well, Charlie Kirk spreads hatred, and Tyler Robinson allegedly had a roommate, a transgender individual who he had a relationship with or has a relationship with. It's weird because we aren't really hearing much about that anymore, right? And we're not hearing much about the investigation at all, other than what we're hearing from Candace Owens and her own, independent personal investigation into this. Like, when you really stop and think about it, Cenk, this is really scary stuff, because even if you don't agree with Charlie Kirk's politics, who cares? This was a public figure who weighed in on political issues, held public events, and was shot in the neck and killed in front of hundreds of people.
Yeah.
And we're not hearing anything about the investigation anymore. And I think that's strange.
Yeah, all right. So I have at least one conclusion. So first of all, do I know all these facts and I know that everybody's motivation? Of course not. How could you possibly know, right? So why did the guy take that footage down right away? Well, why was that his first instinct? If it was to preserve it for the police, that makes a lot of sense, right? If he said it was to make sure that people didn't see it because it would traumatize them, that makes no sense. You're gonna want as much evidence as possible from that crime scene. If you're taking footage away, that's super sus, right? Now, again, but I don't know that that's what he was doing, right? So I don't know what they were doing with the hand signs, etc. But the conclusion I have is, it is perfectly legitimate to ask questions. So our mainstream media has bullied us our whole lives. Don't you dare ask questions. That means you're a conspiracy theorist. What did you say? What did you say? Say 9/11 one more time. That's it. You're canceled. You're canceled forever. I'm not allowed to ask. Look, I don't believe in any kind of theory about 9/11, right? But I'm not allowed to ask, why was Mohammed Atta's passport just lying on the rubble when it was paper? That's the one thing that didn't burn, and a building across the street, World Trade Center 7, fell because the steel was so hot it melted the steel, even though it was across the street, right? But the passport didn't burn. I'm not saying I know the answer, but I know I'm allowed to ask that question. Look, Anna, it's been a long time, but one of our contributors, Michael Hastings, died under very strange circumstances. He died at 4:30 in the morning, speeding for no reason, in a way that he's never done before, crashes into a tree and his car explodes upon impact. So, and when I asked the question of, wait, do Mercedes normally explode upon impact? He happened to be driving a Mercedes that day. They were like, oh, you better not ask that question. Are you a conspiracy theorist? I'm like, I don't even know who I'd have a conspiracy against. I just know it's super strange. And I know that normally people's cars don't explode. That happens in the movies, it doesn't happen in real life. But Anna, remember, of course, he exposed a US general and got him fired, right? And then the media has this obsession with the public should never know anything and they should never ask any questions. So immediately they shut it down like, you better not say anything about Michael Hastings dying. Okay, and now they're doing the same thing with the Charlie Kirk thing. No, I reject it. I'm gonna say and ask any question I like. And by the way, Anna, I'll go further than you and say, yeah, I'm going to ask questions about Israel. He did not have a bunch of Norwegian donors. We see the text messages. So they said, Charlie's saying, the Jewish donors are putting, and that's his language, not my language, and I don't have that. I don't know what he's referring to, but he's saying they're putting a lot of pressure on me and I don't want it. And I'm, and there's indications that he's turning on Israel. And then all of a sudden this incredibly strange thing happens. Does that mean Israel did it? No, there's not nearly enough evidence. Not nearly enough. But when you tell me, yeah, rando shooters with this Khmer trans theory, right? Take only one shot and they're such professionals, they know they got him and they flee right away. They disassemble the rifle on this thing and then they get into the woods and reassemble it and conveniently engrave the bullets. This is why I'm doing it. And then send text messages saying, now remember, it was only me. Every part of this story is strange. If you're saying it's not strange, you're a weirdo. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally agree. One of the other things that I thought was incredibly strange was, so look, I am not a weapons expert, obviously, but I have listened to a number of podcasts with gun experts or whatever, and the weapon that he used, the shooter used, would basically, it would go further than simply piercing Charlie Kirk's neck and then killing him that way. I mean, it would go through his neck, basically. That's the argument that they're making, and that's just not what happened. And apparently, what was the name of the guy who works closely with Charlie Kirk again? His producer,
Mikey McCoy.
Sorry, I just blanked on. No. The producer guy who confirmed the previous set of messages that Candace Owens had released of Charlie Kirk. Whatever. Charlie Kirk's producer, who I'm forgetting the name of at the most inopportune moment ever. He had said something about how the doctors had said that, it was a miracle. Like Charlie Kirk just had a neck of steel, which is why the bullet didn't go through. Which, I'm sure that Charlie Kirk doesn't have a special neck that would prevent a bullet from that type of weapon. From Andrew Colvett, please look up his comments on this because I thought his comments were insane on how the weapon didn't do to Charlie Kirk what it would do to most people. Now, the final thing I'll get to is Candace Owens has been, releasing some of the text exchanges that she had with Charlie Kirk. This one that she just released is actually from April of 2018. So these weren't messages from weeks prior. It was literally messages from years prior. But she felt the need to share it because he had predicted that he was going to die an early death. Take a look.
Here's what he wrote. We were again talking about Kanye. Charlie wrote to me, "You're going to be the Iron Lady of America." He had such a political vision for me. I never wanted that sort of a thing. I see it so freaking clearly. I might be Moses, though. I might not see this whole thing through. LMAO. If that is the case, be my David. I said, dude, you haven't even realized your power yet. You're so young, was what I was thinking. He said, if I tell you the true prophecy that I know in my gut, it's really sad, but I hope it's wrong. He went on to say, anyway, I am not sure if I will live to see the end of this revolution. I believe you were the piece that God meant me to meet that will finish the fight. Since the beginning of TPUSA, I knew in my gut that I might get wiped out at any time. I cannot explain it, but I dream about it all the time, like all the time. Anyway, that's depressing combo for another time, LMAO. I said, that's weird, more of a fear manifestation than an actualization. He said, I'm not really afraid of it, but I'm just telling you what I know to be true. And he told me that. I don't know why. Charlie knew he was going to die young.
So I don't think that that's necessarily a sign of anything. Again, the messages were from April of 2018. When she reads his message in which he says, I dream about it all the time. It's not that he's like, ooh, I dream about being killed. He's having dreams that he's going to die early. So do with that what you will. I don't think that's evidence of anything, to be clear. But she is asking questions about things that she finds strange about the day of Charlie Kirk's assassination, what is seen on video, and some of the inconsistencies in regard to what we're hearing from the FBI investigating this.
Yeah. So my last 2 points are: look, maybe he knew something we didn't know. Maybe he had a reason to be concerned that he didn't share with other people, because that is a very strange thing to say, right? So no, we don't know. No one piece of evidence doesn't prove anything. In fact, all of this evidence together doesn't necessarily prove anything, but it is worth asking questions. And so that leads me to my final point, which is that we better have a spectacular trial of Tyler Robinson, and he better not die in custody. Because if he dies in custody, then it's the US government, period. So maybe they're in cahoots with another government, I don't know. But don't tell me you have specially engraved bullets that are the most convenient things in the world. This guy looks like he's the most professional hitman that's ever happened. And then you tell me that you have all this super convenient evidence of his text saying, "It is only me, do not look for anyone else. Of course, I cared so much about that rifle, that is why I put it back in the woods." I mean, all this stuff. And then if he shows up dead, no, it's definitely some government, and that is involved with our government. There's no question about it. If he shows up to trial and they have all the evidence and it's him and it really was because he was so moved by his trans roommate or etc., and they prove it in court, great, then all the mysteries will be solved. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.